Oh, I don't know if that's such a good idea.
Well, he wanted it down.
All right, we are live and we're about ready to talk about an interesting topic because it's all over the news. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Just spent about, goodness sakes, when I find myself having a few minutes in the day, which is pretty rare for me. Um, I go online sometimes if I don't have enough time to go for a walk or if I don't have time to start a meal. I might go online and check out stuff for a little while. Hi, folks. People are starting to join up. And I love to go to, should you be interested, I love to go to Prager University online. Prager, Prager University, named after for Dennis Prager, who is the man who put that all together. And if you know about it, I'd love to know. I'd like to see that you know about this. Online, it's not really a university as we know a university. It has more to do with little vignettes of explanations of the Israel and Palestine conflict and the Middle East and communism, socialism, and capitalism. Really interesting stuff. So if you're so inclined, let me pass that on to you. You'll love it. Each vignette only lasts about, on each subject lasts, I don't know, a couple minutes or so. It's a great way to teach homeschoolers. It's a great way to get up on what's going on in the world with a perspective that is more conservative. So should you be interested in that, then by all means, thumbs up. Someone says, yep. So some people know about it. It's an excellent, excellent organization. And I spent a good deal of time watching those little vignettes. So, hi everyone. Love to see all that have joined. Stacy, howdy. Joanne from Tennessee. I love to hear where people are coming from. Martha's Vineyard, beautiful place. Jennifer from Dallas. Oh, I love it. Amy. I've been listening to your podcast all day. Oh, Amy, I'm so sorry for you. I have to hear my voice all day. Switch over to Dennis Prager for a while in Prager University. Get a little balance. Alrighty, so tonight we are going to talk about measles. Whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not vaccinated, homeopathy has a method of dealing with every disease for which there is a vaccination. And it preceded the vaccinations. Homeopathy, of course, has preceded vaccinations, although vaccinations, the smallpox vaccines started to come around sort of the late 1700s, just around the time that homeopathy did as well, with Dr. Samuel Hahnemann in Germany. And so for every disease that there is that's been vaccinated for or against, I don't know how you put that, there is a homeopathic protocol. Now, some of them differ, which is kind of interesting. And if I look up in my repertory, which I did because I really, I like to look these things up and check it again. I looked under measles and it told me that, which I knew, because I've been studying this for so long. Pulsatilla is one of the most important remedies. Eupatorium is a very important remedy. But I'm going to give you the Banerjee protocol. And the reason that I've chosen to use that instead of a myriad of other remedies that could be used for measles is because Dr. Prasanta and Pradeep Banerjee, Dr. Prasanta passed away last year, and Pradeep Banerjee have seen more measles than doctors in this country. In fact, there were 372 cases of measles in 2018, according to the CDC. And they make it sound like, oh my gosh, 372 cases. But if you put that in perspective, I think there were 12,000 cases of deaths. Now, these children didn't die of measles, they just got measles. But 12,000 children per year die from accidents. So let's put this in perspective. And when I think about when I grew up, I I had measles. My brother had measles. And on my street, which was an incredible street in Buffalo, New York, one of my neighbor friends counted that from the time that he was born on that street and to the time he went away to college and left home, there were 100 kids on our block. So through those 21 years, we saw 100 kids. And so everyone on the block got measles. I knew no one who died from measles. You don't die from measles. You die from pneumonia. If you get pneumonia after you've gotten measles. And so 372 cases of measles in general. I went to a school, public school 66 in Buffalo, which is now called something else, but it's each of our classes, and I think I got measles in second grade or first grade or something, but each of our classes had 30 children in them, and there were about 5 or 6 classes, so 30 times 5, you figure about how many kids there are in that first grade and second grade. So 372 cases would be about how many we would get in our first and second grade in 1959 or whatever it was. So I don't think that's a lot of cases at all. I mean, I don't think that's even worth writing home about. But apparently there's a concern in our government that is something to be reckoned with. So, but that's okay because we've got homeopathy. So I'm going to give you these medicines, and then so get a pen and paper out, and I will repeat the names of the medicines, and I will spell them. And then I know that Natalie, is one of my team members, will do it as well. She'll be writing it in the sidebar. So the first remedy that I always think of, and this is not actually a Banerjee protocol, is if the child comes down, we assume it's a child generally speaking, because that's who gets measles. I always think of aconitum, because aconitum, aconitum, aconitum nipalis, or aconite for short. I would use that in a 200 potency. And I always think of that when something comes on really fast and hard. So we see that the child is well, and then bam, high fever, or child's really well all day long, and then right after dinner, they get exhausted and they start coming down with something. So whether it's measles or you think it might be a sore throat or could be a otitis media, whatever it might be, I love aconitum, especially when a fever comes on quickly, because, and also if there's a cough, it's a great medicine all the way around. So I always start with that because we don't know what we've got. How do we know it's measles? We won't know for about a day or so, or at least a day or so. So, but once you know that it's measles, once it's established, oh, by the way, let me also say aconitum 200 is one of my first go-to remedies when I assume that someone might be getting pneumonia. Not because I'm thinking, yikes, what if this child gets pneumonia? No, it's a child who gets pneumonia or who's acting like they might be getting pneumonia. They're very sick and it hurts and the coughing or the breathing is shallow, etc. You want to see some real clarity to the symptoms to determine whether or not the child's moving towards pneumonia. But if it's a child who's very chesty and gets pneumonia, I would automatically use aconitum 200. And in that case, I would use it if it's very severe, the coughing, the breathlessness, the fever, etc. We don't even know that it's measles at this point. All of that occurs, then I would use aconitum, say, every 3 to 12 hours, depending on the severity. And as it tends to back off, this is an acute situation, but as it tends to back off, then we back off. We don't use it as frequently. Instead of every 3 hours, we might use it every 6 hours. If 6 hours is working nicely, then we might go to every 8 hours, etc., and open up the space between each dose. So now let's assume that it is indeed measles. And we know that because the neighbors got it, neighbor children have got it, or the younger brother or sisters got it, and we know what's forthcoming. We start with Bryonia 30. This is a Banerjee protocol, Bryonia, Bryonia. Remember, because these are Latin, it's super easy to figure this out. If you had spelled that Bryonia, B-R-I, that would have still worked. You'd look it up and it would have been corrected for you, but it happens to be Y, B-R-Y-O-N-I-A, Bryonia 30. And that's given just twice daily. Twice daily, all during the measles issue. Twice daily. Bryonia 30, twice daily. You can get that at Whole Foods and Amazon, and of course Boron, where you get your discount if you use my name. And then if there's a fever that's pretty noteworthy, then I would use belladonna. And I like belladonna 3C, or I also like belladonna 30. The Banerjees use 3C. Some people find that they can't get that potency very readily, so in that case you'd use a 30, and it's every 30 minutes also. So they would use that. It would use that until the fever starts to break a little bit, and the child is opening up and feeling a little bit better. Then we can go instead of every 30 minutes, then we can go every 3 hours, then we can go every 6 hours. If it's coming back again because you've gone too far open, then you go back to every 3 hours, etc. You're always looking for that tipping point, folks. Remember, always looking for that tipping point. At what point do we back off of using the medicines to that frequently? To at what point do we reinstate and use them more frequently? If there's a cough, the Banerjee protocol is Ipecac. Love this medicine for coughs. IPECAC, Ipecac, IPECAC 30. And we use that every hour if the cough is severe enough. Now, if it's just a little cough, it's no big deal, then by all means, don't bother. I mean, really, don't bother. But if it's something that's noteworthy and the child is coughing pretty severely, then certainly you can give that. Now, let's say we've used these, Bryonia. Let's say we started with aconitum, and then we went to Bryonia, and we're using belladonna for the fever at Ipecac. And the fever and the cough are better, but I don't know. Looks like the measles are really coming on good and strong. Then the second line that the Banerjees tell us about is to use antimonium crude 6, alternating with Bryonia. So antimonium crude is a great medicine because it's all about skin. It's about rashes. And that's exactly what measles is. It's a rash. I mean, it's not the whole picture, but it's a good part of it. And so you could use antimonium crude 6 and Bryonia 30, and you alternate them, say every couple of times a day, each one. So you don't mix them at the same time, you alternate them somewhat. So this is a great method. Now look, it doesn't mean this is the only way we can go after measles. We can also use pulsatilla. Pulsatilla is a great medicine for measles, and particularly if you've got a lot of a picture of pulsatilla, which means there's some nausea, there's a lot of clinginess. The child is extra clingy. If you have a child that has been benefited by pulsatilla in the past, then it's a great opportunity to consider using it. I would still start with the Banerjee protocols as the primary choice. But if it's not working, and what I mean by it's not acting fast enough, you've given this a few days and it looks like the child is still pretty sick. Now, it's interesting because once the rash comes out and is really manifested, that's when everything starts calming down anyway. Often that's when we've gotten over the hump and the child starts to get better. And it usually takes, I don't know, what I've read is 10 days, 2 weeks, etc. So it's just like any other childhood illness that is common or used to be common. Unfortunately, measles is not so common, and I'm sure many people think that I'm crazy to think that it's unfortunate. But I do think it's unfortunate. I think childhood diseases educate our children. They educate their immune systems, and they do it naturally so that later on in life, they are truly immunized naturally against these illnesses. So that does not quite happening in that fashion these days. So let's see if there are any questions. I'm not going to answer all the questions because, boy, we're a lot of folks here tonight. Let's see. Hi from Virginia. Hi, Missouri. From DC. Okay, wonderful. Hi, Angela. It's showing up in DC. I know that you're actually in Virginia, but you must have a connection from DC. Nice to know you're here. Carrie Joe, wonderful to see people. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Grand Island, New York, not too far from where I used to live. Okay, let's see if we've got any questions that they have to be pertinent to tonight. So that's right. Joette's team says aconitum nipalis 200. Hi from New Zealand. Love it, love it, love it. From Pennsylvania, Ohio. Dara Lynn, hi. Nice to see you being here. Hello from Mississippi. There we go. Okay, good. It's all written down there. It's really great. So I want you all to remember to go to Boron. Listen, not for me, as I've said this before, but for you to get your discount. Take advantage of it. Support Boron. Support Highlands, H-Y, like Bryonia, B-R-Y, Highlands Pharmacy online. Support Washington Homeopathics. Support OHM. If you happen to be a student or client of mine, you can use OHM. For those of you who are not, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So you've got to be a student or client of mine to go to OHM in Texas. Support, what's the other one? Hahnemann Pharmacy out near San Francisco. Great group of people. All of these people, all of these pharmacists. It's interesting because these pharmacists and pharmacies, I should say, that manufacture these homeopathic medicines are not like Lilly LaRoche or Bayer. They're not traded on the stock exchange. These are small companies, and they're very simple companies. I think you'd be quite surprised if you could see their facilities. They're often Highlands, and Boron happens to be a pretty big facility, but many other manufacturers are very small, and these are not the big guns in pharmaceuticals in this country. So the reason these pharmacies do this and manufacture these homeopathic medicines and sell them at a ridiculously low cost. I mean, I don't have a remedy here in front of me, but a little vial is what? $8. Sometimes it can be as much as a whopping $18. Is because of their love for homeopathy. And I know that sounds mushy, but it really is the truth. I've gotten to know all of them, and it is their love of homeopathy. And it is our belief as homeopaths and those who manufacture homeopathy that this medicine could potentially do a lot of good in the entire world. It has done a lot of good, but we want it out there. We believe very strongly that people need to have this choice, and that they need to know that they can use this instead of big government, big industry, the two words that should not go together. We don't want those two together. But we don't want it in the hands of those who are too big. We want it in the hands of whom? The family. We want good medicine in the hands of the families. Now, if doctors, pediatricians, OBGYNs, etc., are interested in this subject, great. But you won't find very many. They're trained not to think this way, so they don't. Once in a while, you'll come across a physician who has taken on homeopathy in this country. Now, in Europe, it's different. Many medical doctors use homeopathy regularly. It's also the same in India. The doctors that I got to know in India were all, they're all medical doctors who used only homeopathy. So it's a different world on the other side of the pond. But here we have to fight for our right to keep this beautiful medicine alive and well and in our medicine cabinets. So with that, folks, see you next week.
This is Washington week.
Yes.
Paula's in Washington.
Yes, Paula's in Washington, D.C., working on Americans for Homeopathy Choice.
Homeopathy.
Is that the name of it? I can never get it straight. Americans for Homeopathy Choice.
Homeopathy on the Hill.
Homeopathy on the Hill is this weekend. I know. I wish I could have been there. Can't do it. I have an invalid mother that I take care of exclusively, so I can't leave her very often. So I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but boy, she's doing great work. So if you're interested in Paula Brown, Paola, Paula Brown and her group, it's a very important mission to keep homeopathy alive and well. And so with that, folks, I wish you a good night, and we'll see you next week. Mwah! God bless. Bye.